So they dim the lights, they put on some new agey, nice music. And I'm sitting there, and after breathing for about a minute and watching him as he's just sort of like doing his meditative thing, the whole room turns gold, as if everything and everyone in it is inlaid with glowing gold leaf.
The critical component to mind control. Being made over to be clones of the person who's at the top of the pyramid.
Interested in the subject because of my own cult involvement. I was recruited in 1974 into a front group of the Moonies.
Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Hassan with another episode of my podcast, Cults, Culture, and Coercion. And I have a very special treat. Jim Picariello is joining me, someone I've known for over 30 years. And Jim is one of my proteges, or I don't know how to say it, other than we first met in the context of him being involved with a cult group some 30 plus years ago. His family hired me, and he has really dove deep into learning about cults and mind control. He's been an advocate and a spokesperson. And Jim and I have been talking about this project that he came up with years ago, where he wrote a screenplay and wants to do a movie called The Cult of Us. And I read the screenplay and love it. And I said, Jim, why don't you come on and we'll tell people about your story and tell them about the project, and hopefully they will help support the project by both promoting the idea of the project and also donating, since we are now recording the beginning of December and we're coming up with the end of the year and people are thinking about who to donate to. So let me just say a couple more things before you start talking, Jim. You're a filmmaker. You've done other projects that we'll talk about. You are an entrepreneur. You've just helped me enormously get my work out to the bigger public. And just recently, you kindly consented to playing someone who's a family member talking to a MAGA someone. And I commented on how not to do it and how to do it. So if you follow us on social media and you recognize Jim, you'll be like, oh, that's Jim. So anyway, Jim Picariello, welcome. And let's talk about your film first, then go back to tell your Rama story, and then come back to the project.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm connecting through Maine, rural coastal Maine. And with all of the cult public speaking that I've done over the years since meeting Steve, I came to realize people who are trapped in cults believe cults exist. Actually, they're just incapable of believing that they're in one. So then I thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we had two people in different cults who fell in love as they tried to save each other? So that's the Cult of Us. And right now I have a development producer. We are planning on shooting in Baltimore because they have a lot of generous film packages to help support film. And we are early on trying to find a small circle of investors and also those who have disposable funds who are interested in donating to our nonprofit charitable sponsor, who then would fund the money back to us. So it's low risk. You're not necessarily risking your investment in an independent film, but it's a win-win.
Right, and entertaining people and educating them at the same time in the moment that we're living in, with brainwashing and mind control and cults literally everywhere, to me is a step in the right direction. Potentially, we can get some celebrity influencers to help get them behind the project, and we can get a platform for it once it's shot. Would be awesome. So, Jim, tell us your backstory. How did you How did you come to become an expert in cults?
Well, back in the dark ages, around 32 years ago, I was a junior in college, majoring in philosophy and music production. So I didn't have a great career track going forward. And I saw a really nice quality poster that says "Learn How to Meditate" by the Boston Meditation Society. And I said, "Oh, I've always wanted to learn how to meditate and calm my anxiety because of, my non-future plans." And I went, and there were these two nice gentlemen who were in suits, believe it or not, and they were computer programmers. And they had us do meditation 101, right? So it's, watch your breath, close your eyes, let thoughts float by, don't hold on to them, don't push them away. And it felt really good, and then afterwards, they talked about the history of meditation and prayer and chanting, which is that historically, if you do it in enough lifetimes, if you believe in reincarnation, you start to accumulate sort of this karmic enlightenment points, to call it something. And then eventually you can become, after thousands of lifetimes, you can become a Jesus, Buddha, saint, medicine person, depending on where you are in the world. And it sounded fun. It was really interesting. I liked hearing about, that sort of historical, philosophical stuff. And I would stay after and ask them questions like, "Oh, do you think it's da, da, da?" And one thing that they also said was, if you are spiritually sensitive enough, meaning you've gone through enough incarnations, and you're with one of these enlightened beings, that you can actually see the classic gold glow around them, like you see in all the paintings of Jesus and Buddha and all the saints, right? And didn't think anything of it other than, okay, this is the story, that's told about these folks. And so I went to about 4 or 5 of these until the two gentlemen took me out to dinner. And actually, it was me and my fiance at the time, and said, "We think that you're one of these sensitive, spiritually sensitive, advanced people, and we follow someone that we believe is enlightened, and we'd love for you to come see him at a talk in New York," where I was in Boston. "And we'll pay your way. You make your own decision if you think he's enlightened or not. This is all on you. We're happy to do it. It's $500 a plate, but we're going to sponsor you since we've gotten so much out of the group. And it's formal, so there are tuxes and gowns. And really, it was truly a very exclusive restaurant that they had this event in. First time I had gourmet food, and so I'm really impressed. Lots of folks, I'm being introduced to, who are doctors and lawyers, and they're really funny and they're really interesting, and they're interested in me and what I'm doing for, my future. And then this guy, Rama, who I was promised to see, comes out, and he's this tall white dude with like blonde curly hair. And I just remember him having dark, like Ray-Bans and a leather jacket. But he came out on a microphone and did like a 15-minute monologue that was, I remember it being very funny, about being spiritual in the modern world, where you can't just hide away in a cave. It's like you practice spiritualism when you're in the car, stuck in traffic, and you want to, punch someone in the face, right? And so I thought it was funny, and it did resonate with me. And then he said, "Okay, everybody, meditate with me, but instead of closing your eyes, have a soft gaze in my direction." So they dim the lights, they put on some new agey, nice music, and I'm sitting there, and after breathing for about a minute and watching him as he's just sort of like doing his meditative thing, the whole room turns gold, as if everything and everyone in it is inlaid with glowing gold leaf. I get a wave of euphoria where I'm holding on to the table, trying to not get blown over. And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, oh my God." And then after a few minutes, the lights go up, the music stops, and everything stops. And I'm looking around, and the new people like me are just bug-eyed, like, what is happening? And all of the people who are students of this guy, Rama, were just pleased. They were like, "Oh, that was good." And that's maybe where I'll pause. And Steve, do you want to do any commentating?
Yeah, for sure.
Happened?
So, I too got recruited into the Moonies when I was a junior in college. I was writing poetry, and I thought that was my path to be creative, etc. You're very creative. You've gone into filmmaking and such. But, like classic cult stuff, they don't tell you up front, hi, we're in a group and follow a enlightened master. Nobody told me Moon was the Messiah and the greatest spiritual master in humanity. And in your story, that when you're telling it, the introducing the idea of past lives, like I didn't believe in past lives, and so that would not have resonated with me particularly. It would have been, that's weird. But when people act as if, of course, it's like this. And if they're beginning slowly introducing altered states of consciousness to you to meditate, and it makes you feel relaxed and calm, it's a big plus. So yes, I'll take the next step and the next step. And then the notion of, hey, we would like to invite you to this fancy schmancy Tux dinner. It's $500 a plate, but because we like the group so much and we like you so much, we'll cover it for you. And that brings in Cialdini's law of reciprocity, where if somebody does a perceived nice thing for you, the natural human thing is to want to reciprocate. Mm-hmm. And so you feel indebted to them because they're doing this nice thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, meeting smart people who are doctors and lawyers, and they're all dressed up fancy schmancy. It gives the illusion of, wow, the person who is the celebrity who's behind this whole thing is really a big deal. So it's a kind of a setup. And then the last comment I want to make right now, because we'll get into your exiting experience, but the other thing I want to say is that over the decades of my research, I've been particularly interested in neuroscience, and there's now demonstrated science that when we are in a room with a lot of brains, our brains start in training. And when I was in the Moonies, there was like a 3-to-1 ratio of cult members to newbies, and they like to surround the newbies. And I just noted it as a social psychology perspective, but not a neuroscientific perspective. But when you have a lot of people who are in a cult and they go into an altered state, it creates kind of a field of a sort that you can get sucked into. And if there's enough hypnotic suggestions of golden light, especially if you're listening to a tape, my memory of the Zen master Rama cult is you were told to listen to it and meditate several times a day. So you have his voice in your head, and in the tape he's saying, when you're ready to meet your teacher, you will see the golden light. Exactly. So it's kind of a hypnotic suggestion. So back to you in your story.
So just what you were saying, so when I was meditating with them in the very beginning, and then I'm open to suggestion, because if I remember correctly, once you're in an altered state, healthy or otherwise, you're open to messaging. And then they tell the story about if you're sensitive enough, and of course I want to be special, right?
Yes.
And you find this person, and of course it's just like, well, I'd love to find somebody who knows more than me for direction, right? Which is natural. That goes straight in. There isn't a part of me going, that's kind of weird. Maybe I should, And so I show up, I see all of this. And of course, 90% of the people who are listening to this, who aren't used to hearing about this, are saying, dude, you were drugged, right? And I usually say that up front, but I wanted to hear Steve's thing.
Right.
And you can't turn on drugs at the same time for everyone. You can't shut off drugs for the same time for everyone. You certainly can't make everybody see the same thing at the same time with drugs, right? And I later sort of ruled that out. In fact, later, jumping ahead, I went to events where I didn't shake anyone's hand, drink any water, have the hors d'oeuvres, nothing. And I just sat there, and the light was even stronger. In fact, over time, they would tell stories about, classic Hindu gods that could change shape into different incarnations with all the arms and everything. And I watched this guy, Rama, known as Frederick Lenz. We haven't said that yet. That's his original name. And he changed into different people. And I saw him disappear altogether and disappear with just a Cheshire cat smile and grow 20 feet tall and all this stuff, which if you all saw it, you'd be like me, I'm in. If you can pull this off, right, and
Right.
it's not drugs, you're the real deal. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's called positive hallucination. Is that right? Where it's sort of like augmented reality over your eyes using your dream state to alter what it is that you're seeing. Does that sound right?
Yeah, so in hypnosis, something that I've studied since the 80s when I first was exposed to neurolinguistic programming or NLP, and later got very deep into Ericksonian hypnosis and then clinical hypnosis. In hypnosis, there are two forms that are called hallucination, positive and negative. Positive is when something is created visually, auditorily, kinesthetically, olfactorily, or gustatorily that you experience that isn't there. So if you have someone imagine their favorite animal in front of them and they are in a trance state and they can imagine it, that's great. If you say, now I want you to stroke your favorite animal in the most wonderful way and you feel it, then that's a kinesthetic hallucination.
Mm-hmm.
A negative hallucination is where something's there and you make it disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So like top sports professionals, like basketball players doing free throws during big games and everybody's waving their hands and screaming the guy's name. The top professionals make that all disappear.
Wow.
They don't hear anything or see anything but the ball, their hands visualizing the ball going in, etc. So that's, definitely a feature. But I just want to highlight that altered states of consciousness is not bad. The question is, who's in control? Are you doing it for sports, for creative, purposes, etc., or is somebody with a hidden agenda wanting to take you over, using it because it bypasses your protector critical faculties, going, who the hell is this? And I don't agree with that belief that you're making me believe. So it's a absorption and concentration hypnosis. It's not sleep. So back
Right.
to you.
Yeah, and so it's funny what you were saying. This is nice for people who haven't heard. This is interesting for people who haven't heard about hypnosis very much. Which is, granted, I'm a monk of this guy. I'm going to see him at least once a month when he comes into town for one of these talks where I see all the special effects. And coming from being a B- classic, just solidly B- student, to suddenly becoming an A+ student, acing everything, doing 100%, like focusing. My ADHD is gone, right? I am hyper focused. I'm meditating twice a day. I'm running every day, and I used to hate running. My room, which usually just had both dirty and clean clothes on the floor, are now, famously organized by color in my, like, this is Marie Kondo before Marie Kondo. You just sort of like completely organized. My mother was thrilled. Right? Like, I'm thinking about becoming a computer programmer, which was part of their shtick in that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it was his shtick, was telling everyone that you have to learn to be a computer programmer and even make up a resume to get jobs, even when you're unqualified.
We would vouch for each other, exactly.
So you could make money
was...
and pay him to be your teacher so that he gives you good energy as part of the scam.
And his thing was, if you meditate well in the modern world, because computer programming is very much like deep meditation, which it is not. And this is 92, 93, where you can make a great deal of money doing very basic computer programming. I mean, it was very new in terms of being a career. And so if you're meditating well and you're programming well, it's showing you that you're getting more and more advanced. And you're also getting paid to meditate all day, right? And then, so the better you are at programming, which means the better you are at meditation, the more money you're going to make, because it's the modern world and money equals enlightenment now, and that's how you track it. And since we're all simple monks, we really don't need the money. So we can give it to him as a gesture, as our enlightened teacher, and he'll give us more energy, psychic energy, so we can meditate better and be protected from all the stuff out in the world. And it's that cycle going around. And so again, I'm now focused on having what we called a lucrative career. in computer programming. So again, my family at first was just like, this is fantastic. This group is great. You should double down on this group, right? So now I'm getting family support for what will become me separating from my family, because family and people who aren't in the group have negative energy and are sucking our energy out like, energy vampires. But the other part that I wanted to talk about was the power of hypnosis, in that I was trying to recruit my friends and I was bad at it. I was new at this. I wasn't sort of like leading them on a little bit of a time. I was all in going, this guy can glow gold and he changes to different incarnations. You've got to go to one of these dinners. My guy will pay for it, And a few of them were like, okay, we'll see this guy. And at the end, all my friends were like, yeah, he's cool and he's really funny, but it's just, it's not my thing. And they didn't see any of the special effects. There was one person, this young woman, who was immediately like, there is no way this is true. That you're in a scam, you're being under control, but I'm going to go just to prove it. And we walk out, and she's like, Jim, this guy's a sociopath. He's probably abusing his female members. You can just feel it. She goes, but how did he turn the room gold and change shape into this witch and this like guy from Egypt? And so she didn't believe in any of it. And she still saw the stuff, right? So that's sort of the power, but what's funny is that...
But her radar was, he's a sociopath and abused the women, because that's absolutely the truth. He really was a womanizer.
And she could immediately gauge it. But because I was meditating now in this advanced way, which is that before you watched thoughts float by, you didn't grab them, just like, just normal. It became, I'm giving you energy to protect yourself. You can start pushing out negative thoughts. Don't watch them, especially ones about me. You're picking up from psychic messages from hundreds of miles away of people thinking negatively about me. It's not your thoughts. So I'm in deep meditation, in a deep altered state, while I'm training my brain to automatically push out negative thoughts. So when my friend said, he's a sociopath, he's stealing your money, he's probably all this other stuff, I heard, right? So I wasn't absorbing anything, and I'm thinking, oh, they've been brainwashed by the media because of all the articles that have come out.
Of course.
We've heard that before. Yeah. And I just discount them and I never talk to them again. And go ahead.
So as I'm listening to you, I'm hypothesizing that this woman cared about you, liked you a lot, and was tuning into your brain that was getting the hallucinations, while her critical mind was going, warning, 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 this guy's bad. So that's just a notion, a hypothesis that I have. But I want to clarify, my recollection is that the negative energy included demons and other bad entities, right? Because part of the indoctrination is phobia programming.
Right. And so not only are a lot of people energy vampires who are going to just take away your energy, and then if you believe that, the logical choice will be, well, be away from people, especially family. But that, there are positive entities like dragons and unicorns, and then there are negative entities that are like from the hell dimensions. And you've got to protect yourself with Rama's energy by keying into it. So, of course, now I'm like, I'm going to practically die because I'm now spiritually sensitive to all of this stuff.
Right. Right. So as we're recording this, it's about a week after Oprah Winfrey did a podcast on estrangement about family members cutting off from one another. And I watched the whole show and I did a few short videos going, she didn't talk about cults at all or undue influence or bad therapists, but tell us the Rama paradigm for membership. What did he have people do?
Well, ultimately, on top of being scared about, your family wanting to keep you the type of person that they remember, because if you improve yourself, they're going to be jealous or feel bad about where they are in life, but also they're taking away your energy so subconsciously so they can get better, right? Eventually in that, propaganda sort of way, I, on my own, say, well, obviously, I should be away from my family. I should be away from friends that know me. And if I don't, eventually they will be contacted by the Cult Awareness Network, which was something way back when.
They were the demons to all the mind control cults, and ultimately Scientology sued them into bankruptcy and bought their name and took it over. That was 96 that happened.
Right. So this is before, when they were just photocopying articles from all the cults, because back then there was no internet. You had to look at microfiche to look stuff up.
Right.
And probably a few of you know what microfiche is.
Yeah.
So, and then you could call them up and say, hey, is Scientology a cult? And they're like, sure, for $20, we'll send you a big packet of all the articles that have been written.
Right.
And so, but we were told that the Cult Awareness Network convinces your family to give them a ton of money to kidnap you and lock you in a closet and brainwash you and beat you until you don't even remember.
To deprogram you, right.
Right.
That was the route.
Now we're terrified of the people who actually are one of the few places that have critical knowledge, and about the groups. And so I told my mom, at a certain point, even I was still close with them, even though I feared them. I had this very interesting relationship. And I said, and I was living with them so I could save money and then disappear from everyone I ever knew. And the whole group, we were all going to New York. So I was thrilled about that. My parents obviously didn't know that.
And you were a college student.
Yeah, I was a college student. At that point, I actually quit college with 5 credits to go. So I wasn't wasting my time with college, and I could get into computer programming faster.
Ooh,
I know.
That really made your parents happy.
They didn't know. I don't think.
No,
Yeah.
But that's a common story, because the group says you got to do it now, otherwise you're lost. You're losing your one chance to be enlightened.
Right, and in case anybody's interested, I did the 5 after I got out. I did the 5 credits. I have a degree. But
yay.
And so I told my mom, I was like, listen, if this group called the Cult Awareness Network, they're going to try to convince you X, Y, and Z. So if they say, this is John from the Cult Awareness Network, just hang up. And I leave, and that got my mom thinking, like, oh, he's had some really dramatic personality changes, even if they're good. Maybe I should call them up. The Cult Awareness Network sounds legit, right? So she calls them up and says, is Rama a cult? And they were like, oh, yeah. And she was crying, and just she got the packet, which was, again, this thick of just all the articles about charging tons of money. So, thousands of dollars a month back in 92, 93.
Right.
Just to meet with them for an hour. Empowerments to the women only, right?
Right. Of course.
And how. And so my mother learns about this, and she says to the Cult Awareness Network, do you do deprogrammings? Because what does she know? And they said, well, we really don't. We only give information, but we can get you in touch with ex-members from the group so you have a better idea about what he's going through or will go through. And so she did, and then they, if I remember correctly, being told, recommended Steve, who was someone who did
guilty
interventions. Yeah. And it turns out he was one town over from where I was, which made it really, really convenient, obviously.
Yeah,
and,
in Boston.
So you can tell.
Well, my recollection too was that people were told to cut off from their families, get a mailbox, and have all their mail sent to this PO box, and get a voice, either a pager or something, so people didn't know the location of their loved ones, and that scared the crap out of your family. Like, he could disappear on us, or be estranged, to use that word.
Real quick, the details on that, which was, rarely did they say, do this, don't do this. Obviously, they say, well, there are some people who date very little, so they don't steal your energy, and that's good. And then, there's some people who live on their own, and they rarely talk to their family, and rarely date, and that's really good. But what's the best? Oh my God, I just can't believe how impressed I am with those who cut off their family and whatever. It's just crazy. Can you believe that? It's crazy. And then they move away, and so it's this propaganda, or I'm sure there's another term for it, which is you
modeling.
decide to do the best. You want to do the best, right?
Yeah.
And so it was rarely move to New York. It's like, can I move to New York with you guys? Because that sounds great.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So let's speed up because your family was like, Jim's friends are worried too. Yes, it is confusing because on some level he became a better student. He was exercising, eating more healthily, etc. But this guy was in a cult. Rama was in Sri Chinmoy, if I remember
That's
correctly.
right.
And
Yep.
he, who claimed to be an enlightened master, and he learned a lot of this crap from Sri Chinmoy, and then decided he was from the continent of Atlantis, and he had been enlightened in a past lifetime. It was on his resume, and yada yada yada. And so my style was to tell the family, don't talk this way to Jim, but act curious, ask him questions to reality test, etc. And your friends cooperated. My recollection is your friends took you camping or something
Yeah,
to
they
have.
would take me on trips or hikes, and they told me that you, appropriately so, both the family, is to come up with stories about. Oh, did you know Aunt Jane, make a name, was in an abusive relationship, and she was stuck, and she didn't think that friends and family would support her. So eventually, when she did come, we were like, of course, stay with us. Do you need money? Of course, we're
Right.
gonna. And that goes in subconsciously, creating some critical
Exactly.
thinking skills. And so they
Well,
were all doing this,
planting seeds. But the key thing is that, you had a moment where you challenged me when we finally met,
Yep.
Because you were about to move and your parents cried and begged you to meet with me. And you're like, all right, I'll meet this guy. And I've learned never to tell somebody who believes they had a spiritual experience that they didn't have a spiritual experience. But what works in my style is to say, would you consider an alternate explanation? And I talked about hypnosis, and you looked me in the eye and said, no, it's not hypnosis. And I'm like, well, can you consider it? And then you looked me in the eye and you said, prove it. And I was like to myself, holy shit, what do I do now? And my recollection, we may have different recollections, but I because I didn't want to be unethical and use hypnosis on you, I was thinking, how can I do this in an ethical way? And I just said, okay, Jim, I want you to meditate the way Rama taught you to meditate. And you closed your eyes. And I said, I gave the suggestion, I confess I did. I want you to go deeper than you ever gone before. And then and my recollection is I gave you a double bind, which was, I said, and I don't want you to open your eyes until you're fully ready to see an even brighter light coming from me.
Mm-hmm.
And a few minutes later, you opened your eyes and went, whoa, that's even brighter than Rama. That's it. I'm out.
Right.
I got to get my friends out. And everyone was like, did that just happen?
Well, not only that, when I popped out, because it felt like popping out of it, I also said, oh my God, you wouldn't believe the shit I believed. Like I was suddenly me again.
Right.
And I had a 1.5 year dream of someone else's dream and other memories. And I remember just saying, you were asking me questions and I'd say, well, the cult side of me wants to say that X, Y, and Z. But then, the Jim side of me, and you were laughing like, what is going on here? Because I had the language already.
Right.
And it was a really effective weekend of learning about other cults, which is a great way to avoid
showing videos was the modality that we did back then to show the parallels.
Right. It was
so
really
let me
helpful.
just go on because we're going to wrap up soon and just say Dateline went on to do 2 episodes on this cult and you were in it. Your mom was featured, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And other former members were interviewed.
And current members,
And current members.
And they got an Emmy Award for investigative reporting for that one, actually.
Which was incredibly cool. And like a malignant narcissist that Frederick Lenz was, the guy killed himself, tried to take his girlfriend with him and killed his dog, I believe, or tried to kill his dog.
Yep, that's right.
But he just couldn't handle the exposure that he was a total charlatan and a creep and a womanizer and a cult leader to the
Right.
world.
Right.
But the key thing is you didn't cut off from your family and friends and etc. And you went on to start teaching classes and do interviews. I remember you doing stuff on Waco, I believe, and also Heaven's Gate, where you were giving interviews, and you're very articulate.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this project, The Cult of Us, and why people should support it.
Well, it's one of those things that my goal was to entertain and be darkly comedic in a way that, people would enjoy watching a romantic comedy. But the twist that I put on it is obviously they both get recruited in two different cults. One cult that's very similar to my experience, and the other cult is more of a multi-level marketing cult.
Mm-hmm.
And they're roommates and friends from college, and they start suspecting that the other one's in a cult. They really find out, oh, I care about this person, and what's common is that someone in a cult disappears or separates himself, and I don't want that. So on their own, while they're doing the classic rom-com, I like you and then push away, I like you and then push away, is that they're learning about cults in the mind control end of things and the other side on the hypnosis end of things, and they end up saving themselves even though they're trying to save each other. And then at the end they can come together having a separate but shared type of experience that gives them perspective just to be better people and to investigate what, having a good life where you're in control looks like. And so people walk away understanding how people are recruited, how people are kept under control in a cult, and then how people can either get out or help others get out, all while they're being entertained. And then you walk out knowing it without it being like a lecture, right?
Exactly. And the key thing to tell everybody who hasn't read my books and know more, the key thing is what doesn't work is attacking the group head on. The leader's a schmuck and a womanizer and a malignant narcissist, and the teachings are bull. To teach them about something else and use that
and
as
in the
an
beginning,
example.
that's all they were doing was just like getting on each other's case about the negatives about the other group. So that's how they were kept pushing each
So
other
they were
around.
demonstrating what doesn't work, but the underlying self, which is another part of what I teach from my own experience, is the real Steve wasn't erased by the Moonies. It was just suppressed. And if you're reacted to with love and respect, and people are listening and interacting with you and asking questions and pointing out things, you want to recruit them. You want to prove that what you're doing is good.
And you want to help them,
Yeah, exactly. You want to help them. So I love this project. I think it really deserves a huge global audience, and I want to invite everybody to consider. I think you're going to have a website, and we're going to write a little blog on Substack and put links. Tell us quickly about your The Collector and your other movie that I like so much.
Thank you. I have a few short films that are multi-award winning. My first one when I got into filmmaking was a $100 film that got into 18 festivals and had Sesame Street actually invite me to make one of those little shorts of kids running around and counting things. So that was exciting.
Cool.
And then that got me into this other movie, Passive Aggressive Dads, which is a dark, short 5-minute comedy. You can find it on YouTube. And that, again, got me into like 25 festivals, including the London Film Festival in Sedona and Nantucket and all these fancy schmancy festivals. And then did a short doc called The Collector, which is about a a guy who has the largest private collection of Wizard of Oz stuff in the world, and he's a fascinating guy. And that one is like 15 minutes long. And again, that got into all kinds of festivals. And
I love that. It was so well
you.
done. He's up in Maine, and he's this eccentric dude who's a collector, and you just told the story really, really well.
Yeah, and he's the best. And so after doing all of these, this producer friend of mine came up and said, I think it's time to have the baby. And I was like, what are we talking about? And he said, you've done enough of these successful short films. You need to make The Cult of Us, something he's been in love with for years. And he's like, it's time politically. Everyone is obsessed with cult documentaries and podcasts and true crime,
Right.
and people just eat it up, and they need to learn about what is actually going on, because these documentaries about cults never cover mind control or hypnosis ever.
Right. So I think you said you think you can do this in 3 months, 1 month of shooting in Baltimore.
Yep.
And you're looking for what, $500,000? $1
Well,
million?
$500,000 of raising money, but because Baltimore has a 28% tax incentive of $1 million budget, which to me is a lot of money, and to Hollywood is free, right?
Right. It's very little.
And we have a few $100,000 that have been promised already. So now we're getting to the point where we need to find $400,000 or $500,000 of folks who, writing things off for charitable donations. We can do it that way. And then we want a small circle of private investors who want to come on as,
if you want to believe in the project and invest. It's definitely...
Or if you know someone who likes to be patron of the arts that are socially relevant and positive, that's where people...
I have some celebrities who follow me on social media. If you're watching, I can give you Jim's contact info. You'll see the Substack, and let's make this happen. I'd love to see that happen.
Thank you, Steve. This is a great opportunity.
My pleasure, and we'll talk again soon.
Excellent. All right.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.